What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about a pretty interesting rumor from Jason Schreier. Immediately, you kind of got to take it more seriously, right, than other, like the 4chans of the world and stuff like that. And obviously, it's on Guerrilla Games. It's on, the future of Horizon, which we know the future of Guerrilla is Horizon. But, the order that they're going to be doing things, I guess, is not set in stone. And now it might be, right? So from Knoble over on Twitter, according to Jason Schreier, Guerrilla's next game is the Horizon Online game. Horizon 3 might be farther out than people think. And then he also talks about Xbox and that they basically change their plans every year and it's a mess. And I think in terms of that, he talks about like indie wasn't going to be multi-platform, then it was. They kind of decided last minute to make a handheld console, which they're now doing. So that's kind of the background with that one. And then Horizon, it's just a little bit deeper into that stuff. So the multiplayer that we know they're doing a multiplayer game. We know they're doing Horizon 3, right? It's just which one comes first. And in terms of the Horizon 3 being further out, that's interesting to me, right? Because they've been on a 5-year plan when you go back to Zero Dawn and then you go to Forbidden West, right? 2017, 2022. So, I guess, okay, well, is he talking about me? What I think? He says, farther out than people think. I am a person, right? So, I think that Horizon 3 would come out in 2027. Maybe that's not true. Maybe the multiplayer comes out in the next year or two, and then Horizon 3 is like 2028 or so. I would suggest to not make it too far, because also you got to think, and it's actually crazy that we have to start thinking about this, but we really do. Like, we're in the area where you have to start thinking about it. 2027 might be the last year of just the PS5, because 2028 could very well be the launch in the fall, maybe, right, of the PS6. Now, when did we even really start the PS5 generation, right? So I'm not saying it would be like a PS6 exclusive. There's no way. The PS6 gen, even if it comes out in 2028, you're not going to get PS6 exclusives till like 2032 because of how bad I think the industry just is at doing stuff like that. But so I don't know if that necessarily matters, but you do have to think about it. You do have to think like, is this game going to only be on PS5, or is this actually going to be a PS5 and PS6 title? And honestly, it's looking like that one, because I think 2027 is the earliest, right? That was the earliest if everything went according to plan. Now you have the multiplayer thing. I don't know if that takes like people away from Horizon 3, what that would change. But let me end the video on just one thing, right? I know, the live service stuff, and Jason Schreier brought that up actually, like kind of more in depth as part of this. He talks about that the live service thing was no joke. Like they were going for it, and they still kind of are now. But let me be a contrarian and even be very anti of like what you normally hear me say. But I've actually always held true to this part. I'm not being like a hypocrite or anything. I actually think a Horizon multiplayer would be extremely good. And again, like I've stuck with that from the beginning. And even like the Spider-Man, we've talked about the Spider-Man, I forget, the Great Web or something like that, the multiplayer that got canceled. While I'm not a fan of live service, you had the Concords of the world, and I'm not a fan of Sony prioritizing or even going like or head first, right? Freaking head first into live service. I think it's a terrible idea. It's clearly not worked and it's backfired, besides, I guess, Helldivers, right? But, for me, it doesn't mean that you can't do it at all. It just means, I think, what I've always said is the way they've done it, I think, has been bad. I think the strategy has not been good. But I understand why you do it. And I do think some games actually can work as multiplayer experiences. Now, myself personally, I would prefer like a blend. Like, and they're doing it. Like I was about to say, I don't want you to stop doing mainline Horizon games and instead to do the multiplayer. I would prefer both. And actually, that's what they're doing. It's the same thing like if Spider-Man, that multiplayer game came out, or The Last of Us, Factions. I wanted both of those. I actually think both of those would have been, especially Last of Us, because I think Factions in the first game is really, really good. I would want that, but if you can't do that and single player, then just pull it, which is what they did, right? So I'm actually not mad about that. But I do think those things would work. And, again, let me just throw out like a Horizon multiplayer. And remember, the history of Horizon has been pretty well documented. They've tried for multiplayer, I believe, both times. I think for Horizon 1, they thought about it and they kind of prototyped stuff, and the same thing with 2, and they just didn't do it in either of those games. But, if you've played a Horizon game, which I think many of us have, right, I think, a Monster Hunter type thing is basically what it is. Now, actually, Monster Hunter's just never connected with me. I think you can do this. If you have a lobby of you, 3 of your friends, you go out and you hunt, these robotic dinosaurs, right, which is basically what they are. If you do that, I think that would be really, really cool. And it wouldn't have to be the deepest thing in the world. It would just be fun. I do think the world of Horizon is not made for multiplayer, but the way they did it organically, you can have multiplayer in it. And that's how I think, by the way, all of these should be. But I do think specifically with Horizon, they've kind of walked themselves into this, which I think is a good thing. So I actually would not be mad. Unless you're like, if you're delaying Horizon 3 by like 2, 3, 4 years because of the multiplayer, then I guess I'd be mad. But if you're not doing that, if you've found a way to make it all work, where you're not like killing another game for the other one, then I think it's fine. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icons turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.